The theme for today's book talk is climate change and ecological disaster. I picked this theme because climate change is a major issue that a lot of young people are really interested in. The books that I selected today show young people grappling with a changing world. I hope that these books can interest and inspire young environmental activists and enthusiasts. The first book that I want to talk about is Midnight at the Electric. This book is set in the future where Audrey, a young girl, is preparing for a mission to colonize Mars. Earth has become inhospitable, and there is a need for humanity to find a plan B on another planet. While preparing for her mission, Audrey uncovers the diary of Catherine, a young girl living through the Dust Bowl, as well as letters from Leonore, a girl dealing with the death of her brother. This book would appeal to anyone who's interested in science fiction or historical fiction because the book contains elements of both. It also features strong female characters who really develop voices of their own, as well as act as autonomous creators and agents in their own destiny. Speaking of strong female voices, Laura from the Carbon Diaries 2015 is an outspoken and passionate protagonist. The Carbon Diaries 2015 deals with the environmental disaster called the Great Storm. In its wake, England has instituted a carbon quota that dramatically reshapes the lives of everyone living in the country. Laura struggles to balance the everyday life of growing up, playing in her punk band, having a crush on the neighbor boy, with major changes to her lifestyle, school, and family. Her irreverent tone is very refreshing, and her voice feels authentic for that of a girl who is thrown into an environmental disaster zone she didn't ask to be part of. Throughout the novel, Laura comes into her own, both as a young woman and as an activist, as she becomes more involved in the carbon revolution. The book is told in a series of diary entries and also includes scrapbook like elements illustrating Laura's life. I would recommend this book to anyone questioning the dual dynamic of trying to be a teenager making their way in the world alongside the uncertainty of the future due to the realities of climate change. Similarly to Laura, Noah of Depart Depart is also struggling to define himself and create his own identity amid a world that's crumbling around him. Depart Depart tells the story of Noah, a young trans boy who's been living in Houston. However, due to a hurricane, the city of Houston is flooded and he is forced to flee to Dallas, where he's living in a temporary shelter. At this shelter, Noah finds a found family of other queer individuals, and they stick up for each other and try to make a space for themselves within the shelter. However, because of the intense nature of this situation and this disaster zone, Noah and his friends are forced to deal with complicated questions of how much of their queerness and transness they should keep out there in the open and how much they should hide because of fear of retribution from the other Texans around them. Noah not only struggles with his own masculinity and trans identity, but he also comes face to face with his Jewish ancestry through the ever present figure of the ghost of his great grandfather. Noah begins to learn more about his Jewish identity and how this interacts with his queer identity, while also struggling to survive amidst the massive destruction and death caused by the storm. This book is perfect for anyone who wants to hear unashamed queer narratives, as well as anyone who wants to explore how intersectionalities of identities such as race and gender are truly brought to light amid moments of crisis. The theme of intersectionality brings us to our final pick, Poisoned Water by Candy J. Cooper and Mark Aronson. While not directly about climate change, this book traces the origins of the Flint, Michigan water crisis and tells the story of how citizen activism has sought to fight back against this and spread the message of this water crisis to the world. This book also doesn't shy away from calling out the racist implications of the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. It unpacks the way in which environmental racism makes a situation in which communities of color are disproportionately affected by the realities of climate change and of decaying infrastructure. This book provides a way for young activists to see how creating the narratives and uplifting voices from marginalized communities can create change in the face of natural disasters and climate change. I hope that these books have piqued your interest and you will continue to read and learn about climate change and what we can all do to ensure a future for our planet.